mate. Well, we'll keep abreast of all that action. Now, the one man we haven't really properly talked about is our race winner, Jorge Martin, who went on to not only take his first win, but as you said, Keith, right at the start, the first ever for a satellite Ducati rider as well, in only his 6th race, having missed 4 due to injury. So talk about a comeback from injury as well. It was a brilliant drive from him. We saw at the start of the season how fast he is. That huge injury that he got in Portimao, to come back from that as well with the help of the summer break. It really was a masterful drive from him, but it wasn't completely straightforward, especially with that red flag.
It's called a ride, Harry. Not a drive.
Shall I redo that whole bit and say ride? Leave me alone. It's so easy to do both.
You teased me a bit earlier on, so you can have some back.
Right. What a masterful ride that was.
It really was. A great recovery, Harry, if I may say so.
Thank you.
Jorge Martin, he's been a world champion before, and the masterful ride was because when you're a world champion, you know how to lead a race. You know how to pace yourself if you've got the deal, if you've got the bike, if you've got everything you need. And Jorge Martin was superb. The 5-week break played into his hands, really, didn't it? Because his injuries were mega painful. They were big injuries that he took. And that could have been a career-ending crash. That could have been him limping through the rest of this year and finding himself dropping down the pecking order of KTM. But now, he's right on everybody's lips. His stock value has gone through the sky. And despite what I said earlier on in this conversation, you could actually see him do it again next weekend. He looked so quite classy that you could actually see him finding a little bit more from the bike. He looked like everything was easy. There was nothing. He wasn't sticking it sideways. He wasn't running wide anywhere. He was absolutely hitting his marks perfectly. A remarkable ride. From pole position. I mean, he didn't quite get the start in the first part before they red flagged it, but the second part, he got absolutely bang on. And Jorge Martin, I mean, his pace was just superb. It really was. Disappointing for me that from Zarco as well, not just because I chose him for the race win last week, but because he chose a soft tyre. And I know he does that quite often, but I just couldn't see that working over 27 laps. So tyre choice 2 was something that you needed to get about right, I think, with this racetrack. But Jorge Martin, you could not get it more perfect than he got it. Controlled it from the front.
Well, I mean, Pete, that was something I think we picked up on post-race. Martin said, something crucial to actually winning was the tyre change in that red flag period.
And also the way he handled the tyres. Now, Fabio Quartararo was asked, and Joan Mir, what do you think of Martin? And Fabio, in fairness, and quite openly said, look, unlike me in 2019, he's really knowing how to use these tyres, not burning through them, saving the tyres. You could see when he was following him that, hang on, this guy he's not just going quick, he's thinking what he's doing, and he's really looking after everything and thinking about the race distance, not just about the lap time. And he said that's what was, he used the word strange, he said that's what's strange, but he meant it as a compliment, that Martin he's shown he's got the speed. Obviously we saw the pole position in Qatar, but now he's showing that he can, soak up the pressure, as Keith says. Mir was within striking distance for most of the race, and yet he didn't put a wheel wrong. And now you can imagine his confidence must be sky high going into next weekend. So, as Keith said also, first ever satellite Ducati winner. I think he's only the 5th rookie to win a race since the MotoGP era, joining people like Marquez, Lorenzo, Pedrosa, Binder.
Well, I think I saw that stat. I've got it here. Riders to win one of their first 6 MotoGP races in a 4-stroke era: Pedrosa, Lorenzo, Marc Marquez, Brad Binder, and now Martin. It's not a bad list.
And he's the only one of them that's done it with the satellite team as well. So, it is, congratulations to Pramac. They've been waiting a long time for this, this victory as well. Fair play to them. There's some people that might count the Honda wins that Tamada had. They were sort of under the Pramac banner, but this is really with their whole own team, if you like, and with Ducati that they've been with for so long. So it's really well deserved by all of those guys, and a great result. And yeah, what a star Martin is proving to be. And remember, Martin was in that KTM structure, and Ducati were able to get their hands on him. So you can understand again from KTM's side why they are so worried about keeping hold of Fernandez, because they've seen guys like Martin being pulled away at the last minute in at Ducati, winning in his 6th race.
Tell you what, the old Red Bull ring is pretty good for certain teams that haven't won in decades. Hervé Poncharal taking that win. Now we've got Pramac taking that win. I mean, it's fantastic stuff. I mean, Pramac next to Tech3. I mean, Tech3, I love all the guys at Tech3. It's a great race team. It's a bit of a 1980s race team that's in the modern era. So you can imagine why I quite like it. It's got a relaxed feel to it. Guy Coulon is slightly mad with his hair everywhere, and Hervé Poncharal is there anybody more French than Hervé? I don't know. I haven't met anybody more French than Hervé. And just a lovely team. And then you've got Pramac, Guidotti and Campinotti. Honestly, the whole thing there is just so incredibly Italian and quite mad. Their Friday night karaoke dinners are just fantastic. I mean, there they are. Everyone in there is on the karaoke. I mean, everybody from the top men in the team, and they're all singing away over dinner, and you're sitting there thinking, please don't ask me to do it. Please don't ask me to sing. Oh dear. Great team, and fantastic that they take that win. You're right though, they have had wins before, but in the MotoGP era, they will be enjoying that. In fact, what was the quote from Jorge Martin when asked if he would be celebrating? It was just wonderful how he said, "You can be sure I will." But he's only got a couple of days to get over it.
Yeah, you can't go too hard. But it was fantastic to see him and them on the top step of the podium. And at the end of all of that, Quartararo still does lead the championship with that damage limitation. 40 points now, the gap to Joan Zarco, who coincidentally has been the leading Pramac, but faded away in those last couple of laps. Was there a particular reason for that?
Would have been tyre, almost certainly. I think the soft rear tyre would not have been the one. I don't know. He obviously likes the feel of it, and he is a man who could run a softer tyre than most, it seems, because he is incredibly smooth. If it had been wet, Zarco would have been there or thereabout, not because of the tyre he got on, but I just feel that the track conditions might have suited him slightly better. But in the drive of that soft rear tyre, you can be sure the last 4 or 5 laps are going to be like purgatory. You're not going to be able to get on the throttle. Everything's going to be, banging in there electronically. It's just horrible the last few laps if you've got no tyre left. And you got zapped. You were talking about Binder. Binder completely opposite. That last lap that Binder, he picked up 2 places from 6th to 4th. And Binder is just the man for that job. If he's strong, he's going to ram it up the inside. That is for sure. The South African is a tough cookie when it comes to making a pass, and he must have thought it was Christmas. 2 places in the last lap. Fantastic stuff from Binder. And Zarco being one of the men that it cost. I don't know. I'm a bit disappointed actually with the way that Zarco's performance turned out in the end. He looked like he was going to be there or thereabouts. He was shadowing him for the first third, and then and the only thing I can put it down to is tyre. There's always a worry too at that track whether you've got fuel mapping right. You've got to be so careful of running out of fuel. Having a 27 lap race was a lot better than having a 28 lap race for many of them, because they're close to running out of fuel if you've got full. If you've mapped it slightly rich. So that's always something to look out for. No doubt they'll be looking at that again for next weekend. One of the other little details that they can work on. Can we give it a bit more power in places because we've got more fuel than we thought we had, or have we got less fuel than we thought we had? These are things that are going on right now as we're talking in the debrief. Your techs are going to be looking at everything and working out where the benefits are for next week.
Well, there is so much to digest, but it was Jorge Martin who took the win, of course, from Mir, and Quartararo in third. So that was just the MotoGP. I'm going to move on, if I may be so bold, to Moto2 first up. And it was Marco Bezzecchi who returned to winning ways, took his first win of the season in it was a bit tougher conditions for the Moto2 and the Moto3 guys because the track was steadily drying out, wasn't it? But Bezzecchi off to a great start to lead early on, but Remy Gardner was there giving him a lot of pressure at the start.
When you're chasing a track, and I mean by that whether it's getting wet and you're chasing it as it gets wetter, or you're chasing it when it's getting drier, really, really difficult because you are having to increase your pace as it dries out. The line, when you're on a racing motorcycle as well, you're right down to your eye level. Can't see damp patches. It's only when you go offline and all of a sudden it starts to wander towards the darker stuff. Really, really tricky conditions in those circumstances. So chasing a drying track, Bezzecchi got it bang on dead right. Remy Gardner, you kind of get the feeling that Gardner had he pretty much got it sorted at one point, but then discretion being the better part of valor, and I think that's the Remy Gardner I'm loving at the moment. He's really working everything out. He's doing what you do to win a world title, and he ain't going to make a mistake by giving 25 points to anybody in one go. He's going to be there or thereabouts, I think, all the time. I love the way he's doing his job at the moment. But pleased for Bezzecchi, the first win of the year. That's but I don't think he's going to be a major threat for the rest of the year. I think it's still going to be the Gardner that's doing the business.
But Pete, Gardner did have a little bit of an error and a mistake. Ran wide into the gravel. It cost him a couple of positions. He was still able to bring it back in fifth, but Gardner, was under it, because at one point there was a four-way battle when they split off to 2 and 2 right at the top. Iagura and the Aaron Canet, everybody was there, and Gardner actually was the one who made the biggest mistake.
Yeah.
It was a rare sort of off day for the AO team, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We've seen them dominate, and this was where it sort of didn't happen, did it? But some people speculating with Fernandez, was it maybe all this talk about MotoGP, and then as you say, Remy's got that pressure of I'm the title leader. That's the everything to lose situation, isn't it? In those tricky conditions. So as you say, you saw he seemed content to maybe follow the other riders a bit at the start, which great idea in those conditions to just judge how quick to go, because you don't want to be the guy up front that pushes too hard, falls down, and then that was the limit. So I think it was just difficult situation, difficult conditions for any title leader. In that situation where it's mixed conditions, it's greasy, you don't know what the grip level is going to be. So to come away with solid points, I think it was far from a disaster for him. And from, on Bezzecchi's side, perfect timing. I mean, the guy now is being linked with MotoGP already because Rossi is not going to be taking the BR46 seat, but Bezzecchi's also being linked with the Petronas Yamaha seat as well. So absolutely perfect time to win his first race of the year, just when all these talks are going on. It's a strange situation for the VR46 team because they manage the academy riders such as Bezzecchi, so that they're doing negotiations for them with other teams, and then they're also sort of considering, well, do we have him in our own team? So it's perfect time for him. You've got to imagine now that he will be in MotoGP next year in one seat or another, joining Remy Gardner and Raul Fernandez.
Rookie Iagura looked impressive this weekend as well, didn't he? He's suddenly come of age at the Red Bull Ring. It's funny, this racetrack just produces that little extra, doesn't it? Sometimes you see people do stuff that you hadn't quite seen before. Iagura through qualifying looked just superb. So I think we've got a lot to watch out for him as well now as the second half comes on. So maybe one for the future again in Moto2.
Another one, we spoke about it last week, didn't it? This consistent amount of talent that we have coming up through the ranks as well. It's just, and then people coming, that was Iagura's best result to date, I believe, even with a long lap penalty that he got as well. Just on fourth place man in the championship too, Sam Lowes, much of the race in fifth, but ran wide, looked like he was just struggling to keep that bike on the road at times, finished down in 14th, so not brilliant for him, but still holding on in fourth in the championship at the moment.
I think that kind of underlines the Remy Gardner, Sam Lowes experience. In these conditions, it can go just that little bit wrong, and you're having to rescue the plot. I don't think it's indicative, to be honest with you. I mean, Sam, I won't say he's struggling, because I don't think he is. I just think he's sort of aiming for that. He needs to get that flow back, that rhythm back throughout the year. He needs to just keep at it. He knows what he's got to do. He's experienced enough for that. I'm just waiting for him to get back on that plateau, that plane of consistent results again. I mean, in those conditions, the tiniest of mistake make you pay. I mean, we talked about Remy just, making it into the gravel trap. That's when you're being reasonably cautious by his standards, perhaps. It's a real knife edge that they're all on at the moment.
Yeah, consistently on a knife edge. Well, at the end of all of that, the Moto2, Remy Gardner is obviously still the championship leader. The gap, 35 points to Raul Fernandez at the moment, if my maths is correct. I hope it is. So that is still all to play for, I would suggest, but it does look like certainly Remy Gardner has the lead on that. Moto3 now, moving on. Once again... always fails to entertain, or never fails to entertain, I should say. Pedro Acosta and Garcia as well. Race-long battle in, again, an even worse track conditions, actually. You know, much wetter, especially offline. Constantly overtaking each other, and right at the very end, with Garcia going off into the gravel in that final corner, bikes on the floor, but those two had so much pace over third place, man, that he was still able to get up on his bike and come across the line second, which I think a lot of people were quite relieved of, because he didn't deserve to have a non-score. And a sublime drive once again from Pedro Acosta. Ride, a sublime ride.
You're going to go to a sleep saying it there, aren't you? You're going to get back to a car commentary and you're going to be saying ride. Oh. The riders are on the grid at your Formula 2.
We're going to have to write it in big letters in front of me.
Acosta was superb. I thought he was weighing up Garcia all the time. He looked the most calm of the two. It was a great war of attrition between the two of them. I'm glad Garcia managed to get back on. He deserved second place, if not the win. To be able to crash in a race and still get back on and finish second is pretty remarkable. But Acosta, he just looks like the real deal. I mean, I'm sure there have been people who said it before, but I mean, he does look a bit like he looks like Marc Marquez on a motorbike, the way he weighs stuff up, but without the aggressive. He is aggressive, but it's almost more accurate. He just seems to be able to make moves that you think, whoa, you could see it coming, but wonder how he did it. And I think he's a remarkable rider, Acosta. I mean, I'm hoping he goes the full distance, but I've watched him. It's rare, you know, when you have tight time scales like most of us do, and to go back over a race. And I find myself going back to the Moto3 race and watching his again, thinking, how did he do that? And, you know, what makes him that little bit better? And that's, again, it's about those fine details. And he seems to have, you know, a 24-year-old racer's head on a 17-year-old body. It just seems to have it so well worked out. And I never thought for a minute Garcia was going to beat him. That's just the kind of aura that the kid has managed to build up around him. And sure enough, Garcia, I mean, they never touched. I mean, Garcia was a little wide and there was a little damp patch there, but Acosta had got it done. He got him beat on that last lap. And then, of course, just that little bit of a bobble at the front end. And I think he just really got on a very slight damp part of the track on the outside of the corner, and that took him down. But luckily, he was able to remount and get back on for second. Thankfully for his team. The look on their faces, they thought that was it. You know, it was horror. And then it must have been elation when he came across the track to get 20 points.
Some sort of redemption, but of course it was Pedro Acosta's fifth win of his rookie season, Pete, as well, now leading the championship by 53 points. There's just no stopping him, and he also, strategy was involved as well, isn't it? Because we saw a couple of the other riders make gambles with slick tyres that didn't pay off.
Exactly, yeah. He played it safe with the tyre choice, we say, which he would as the title leader. But as Keith said, it's almost the Marc Marquez approach to winning a world championship, which is you go for the wins. I mean, there'd be a lot of people with that points lead, as you say, this big points lead already, that would have said, just settle for second. You know, just play it safe, bring it home. But you could see from pretty much early on, he was just sizing up Garcia. You know, he fully intended to do just as Marc Marquez would have. And we've seen many times in MotoGP, you know, go for the attack, go for the win. And he executed it perfectly, as Keith said. You know, it didn't look in any way out of control or anything else. And yeah, another sort of textbook ride from him. And exactly, Garcia deserved to get back on the bike and finish second. And to have that sort of advantage, 10 seconds or whatever it was over the field, it just shows how well those two were riding.
Certainly did. Well, another thrilling Moto3 race as well. The time has come, gents, though. We're going to go back to our MotoGP predictions, if I may, because we haven't got long to wait until the next one. And I know we could talk about this for about 3 hours long, but I do have to keep it on track at some stage. So I'm going to move it to predictions. Now, just a reminder of what we did last week. So Pete went for Miller, which was looking good until he binned it. Keith, you gave us your top three, which was Zarco, then Miller and Quartararo. And as you said, you did get Quartararo correct, but I'm not giving you any points. And I actually went for Miguel Oliveira, so that didn't really pay off at all weekend. So who are we going for again this time? Keith, you can start us off this time because Pete went first last time.
Mir.
I'm
going to have a Suzuki win. And that really wouldn't happen, you wouldn't think, at the Red Bull Ring. But I'm confident that they've got that shapeshifter to work first time out, bang. And by the time they get everything else sorted out during the course of their data downloads and their look through this week, I've got a feeling Mir could go for the win next week. But the thing is with the Red Bull Ring, it's all down to the weather as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Just the one entry for this week. You've learned your lesson.
Oh, no, I'll go for the full three if you like. I don't mind.
Go on. You could do a full three, and if you get the full three, then you get the point as well. Then you get an extra point.
Well, do you know what? Jorge Martin, going back to what we said, he could win back to back. He looks so good. You know, it was in my mind what to go. I think I'm going to go for a Jorge Martin second place this time. And I'll go for a Miller third.
Okay.
I'm going to knock Quartararo off my podium.
Goodbye, Quartararo. All right, then. Should we all do a top three?
It's just a giggle, isn't it? You're not giving points for it, otherwise I'd have got one for this week.
No, we'll leave it as your thing, because I'm going to go for one. I'm going to go next, Pete, because that's only fair. I'm going to go for Zarco. I'm going to put Zarco. I think he's going to have learnt from what his teammate has done. And also, he's consistently up there anyway. And I think Zarco, it's also Austria. You know, anything can happen, as we said. Zarco is my pick for the win. Pete, who's that left you with?
Jorge Martin. You know, I think that the confidence he'll get from this win, I think it'll be interesting to see how much it changes him. It's certainly not going to make him any slower. He has got the disadvantage, as Keith says, he's not in the factory team, and maybe you expect the factories have more data and everything else. But still, I think the way that he rode, he's now a MotoGP winner, so I think he can do it again. All
right then. So to double confirm, Keith, you've gone for Mir as your win, and then Martin and Miller second and third. And then my winner is Zarco, and Pete, you've also gone for Jorge Martin as well. So, well, we haven't got long to wait once again, because we'll be back in Austria in only a couple of days anyway. So, dear listener, well over an hour of podcast coming your way, or that you've just got through. So, hope you've enjoyed it as well. We shall be back with you for the next one after the Austrian Grand Prix as well. But stay up to date on the very latest. In the meantime, it's all on crash.net. Any questions as well? I'm sure there'll be a lot after a double header, which we will get stuck into next week. Send them in all the usual ways. Comment section on YouTube, tweet, Instagram, or Facebook us. Just search Crash MotoGP, and it'll all do the rest for you. And make sure you leave us a review if you can, wherever you get your podcasts as well. And we shall see you right back here next week from myself, Keith, and Pete. Bye-bye.